Hey everybody, welcome back. We are doing our last part 4 for the vocab. I know there's a ton of vocab on here, and we're going to get to it right away. So our first word is diplomacy. Diplomacy is basically when you're willing to make deals, you're willing to talk, you're willing to do things to try to stop conflict. In the classical era, we're going to see diplomacy be used by China against the Shan. Those are nomadic people to the north. We're going to see the Gupta use diplomacy, working with other people and as they decentralize their government and try to establish peace. Diplomacy is basically the idea of trying to make deals, trying to get out of war, trying to make agreements with other people internationally. That is diplomacy. Let's go to our next word. As you can see, our reading here is chock full of vocab. Yay! Hey, vocab. All right, matrimonial alliances. Matrimonial alliances are kind of like, okay, all right, if you have your kids get married, like a prince from your empire marries a prince from another empire, maybe that makes you guys establish peace now that you're married and related and everything. It is a way, basically, to bring people kind of like into your empire to get them as an ally. We can even see it here when you get to your reading, talking about China, when they're with the Shan and how the Han Empire Wu decides to make alliances with the Shan instead of fighting them. And one way is to have marriages happen so the people can become closer, quite literally. And then what that will do is that's a form of diplomacy to stop fighting. And it also happened in other areas where, like in Rome, for example, like an outside area, there might be marriages that happen that can kind of bring people kind of closer into the empire in the classical era. It's significant because it's a way to try to avoid fighting. Our next word is tributary states. And we're actually going to combine this one with the tributary alliance it says on there, but we want to put tributary states. So tributary states, change alliance to states. Tributary states pretty much is the idea, like the Gupta did this, where they were running a more decentralized government. So what they did is they had people, and they said, you're just going to pay tribute. Tribute is taxes. Pay taxes to us, and you can be under our rule. So it might be a land that's a little bit further away, and they say, okay, you're under our empire. Pay us taxes, a tribute, every month or so, every year or so, and we're good. You can run things how you want. Just make sure you pay us our tribute, and you're good. We won't fight you. You won't fight us. Make those taxes or tribute, and you can be a part of our empire. Also it happened in the Qing dynasty, it happened in the Han dynasty where there were tribute empires, and basically this allowed people to rule themselves, pay some taxes, but didn't have to have the empire running them directly. It is more of a form of decentralized government, and it works for a while until those people who are paying tribute decide, you know what, let's just stop paying tribute, we're pretty strong now. And that definitely happened. A big example of that happened in the Zhou dynasty, where the people were paying tribute, and after a while they decided, nah, let's not do that. And the Zhou dynasty had no control, and that led to other people fighting each other, which led to the period of warring states. So that's tribute alliances, and tribute states, actually, tribute states, my bad. We're going to take our next two words together. They're Samdragupta and tribute. Samdragupta was pretty much a person who established this tribute system of the tribute states, getting them to pay taxes in the Gupta Empire. It's significant because it created a more decentralized government. We see the coins here. Many times the tribute could be paid in coins to the emperor. And also tribute basically is the taxes that were paid. You could use the Gupta Empire as an example, that these tribute states paid taxes to the Gupta Empire. Why is this significant? It's significant because it allowed people to rule themselves on their own pretty much, but just pay taxes to the empire. It also establishes more trade, too, because the empires are getting bigger and the people who are paying tribute will also trade products back and forth, and allows empires like the Gupta Empire to be a little bit larger than they may have been otherwise, that they would have had to fight and defeat all these people. So that would be Samdragupta and tribute. We had this one before. Here it is again, the Great Wall of China. Now you look at it there. There it was what it was like in the Qing dynasty. In the Qing dynasty, it was built by Qin Shi Huangdi to keep out nomadic people like the Xiongnu out of China, and they built it, and many people died trying to build the wall. So there's the part of it that was built during the Qing dynasty. It continues to get built over literally hundreds and over 1,000 years, and that's what we recognize as the Great Wall today, that was built in the Ming dynasty much, much later. And the Ming dynasty is in the modern era, the post-classical and modern era when we get to there, which is much later. So the Great Wall of China built to keep outside people out of China. Here we see a picture of what's called Hadrian's Wall, which was built by Emperor Hadrian in Rome. This is actually in northern England and was built along northern England because the Romans didn't want to fight against the Scottish people. They were really tough to defeat, so they built a wall across northern England so they wouldn't have to fight against them. And that was kind of the line of where the Roman Empire was. Very significant because it's very similar to what China did, except for Hadrian's Wall is much, much, much smaller. But it was designed to keep out foreign enemies, nomadic people who wanted to fight against you, so you build a wall to stop them from coming. So that is Hadrian's Wall, built during Rome in the classical era, significant to try to keep out Scottish people who were fighting against the British Empire in northern England, Scotland today. Both Hadrian's Wall and the Great Wall of China were very expensive projects to keep foreigners out of their lands. That's why they're significant in the classical era. Fortifications are basically kind of like the where you put soldiers, and when we're talking about this chapter, we'll especially think about fortifications along with walls. Fortifications are basically where you put soldiers to guard and fight against other people. Here we see an example of a fortification on the Great Wall of China. Now this was built later, so it's not in the classical era, but this is just an example, picture of what a fortification would have looked on the Great Wall. There would have been soldiers there to help protect against people coming in, to warn people, to use them against people, so you'd have soldiers there from coming into your land. Again, it was a way, there's fortification in Hadrian's Wall too, also in the Roman Empire, and it was a way to keep people out of your empire and keep your empire as you have the strong borders in the classical era. Via militaries are basically roads used by the military. Roads used by the military. I'll give you an example here what the Roman roads looked like. Rome had roads that were used through the military that connected the entire empire so people could move much faster, could get from place to place if there were skirmishes, if there were fights. Very significant because the military could get there quickly and could stop any fighting that would happen via militaries. And the Romans were very well known for their roads, which were very well built and are still in existence to this day, which is pretty cool. You can see them in Europe all over the place. Pretty awesome. The Han army, this was the army of the Han dynasty, which was a very strong army, and this is one of the first time examples of a conscripted army, which meant that this army was pretty much like drafted. You had to have people in it. Basically, you take like 5 households. They would have to put up 5 soldiers to serve in the military. And they weren't just serving, in peacetime. I'm sorry, they weren't just serving in wartime. These were full-time soldiers who were soldiers all the time. That might not seem new today, but this was very new for the classical era when many people who had soldiers, they would fight for a while, and they would go return to the farms afterward. So Han army had a professional army. We're going to get to the next term right now. They often were required to read Sun Tzu's Art of War to learn how to fight in war, where scholars had to read Confucian classics. The soldiers had to read the Art of War. And there we see Sun Tzu's Art of War. Sun Tzu's Art of War was a book that basically gave you different strategies for soldiers and how to defeat your enemy, how to win in war, what tactics to take. One of the things I kind of like in the Art of War, it says, pretend like your strength is your weakness. Like show that you're really weak in an area, but you're actually strong. So when your enemy comes to attack you there, you then pound them with your strength the best you can. So a lot of it is things like that, like strategy, how to like fake weakness when you're really strong, how to intimidate and defeat your enemy before you even start fighting. This was in Sun Tzu's Art of War, which was read by many soldiers in the Han army in the classical era. Very significant because this also allowed the Han to have one of the best militaries in the world this time, rivaled Rome as probably the 2 strongest militaries in the world in the classical era. And there's our Roman army, which may have been the most efficient killing machine in the classical era. The Roman army, we see them here kind of broken up, and they really were good at organizing and breaking up their army. They had groups of 8 men who would be together, and they could be broken up into a group of 10 of these 8 groups of men. And they could be even further broken up. So what they could do is they could section the army and send it in different places with different people who were organized together. So you had different levels that were in formations. Oh, pause there. It was called the Legion, and they were all broken up into different formations. So you'd have a group of 8, Then 8 of these groups would form like would be called a century, and they could be divided up and sent into different areas to fight. So when you're fighting with your group, you know that you had each other's back. So in your group of people, you were protecting each other, and you were part of a bigger military, and part of even a bigger military than that, and you could be sent in many different places. It's significant because it was highly organized, it was highly efficient, and they were able to defeat many people because of their organization and efficiency in the classical era. All right, last vocab words, coins. So there you see a Gupta coin. We've seen that in several pictures. Coins make it just much, much easier to trade, especially on the Silk Road and the Indian Ocean trade routes. The classical governments start using more coins, especially the Gupta, to make trade go a lot easier. You can keep track of goods, and coins grow during this time period in the classical era, and they're really significant because they lead to a huge increases trade. If people don't have to trade product for product, they can give you coins with a cost on a certain item. So coins are very valuable. They cause more trade all throughout the classical empires during this time period. Oh my God, that is a ton of vocab. Good luck on this test, but I know you guys are going to rock it because you guys are awesome. All right, see you in class.